Welcome, everyone. My name is Ian Scarfe, and welcome to the Trinity Alps Chamber Music Festival's first digital concert of 2021. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope that you are enjoying this year, and I hope that you have grand plans for how we are all going to make this more successful in so many ways. Today's program is going to feature performances by me and also by my colleague, Philip Brezina. Philip, are you here? I'm going to give Philip a quick spotlight just to say hi. Phil, how are you doing?
Pretty all right.
Pretty all right. I guess that's just fine. Philip and I have been collaborating so much over the years, and so today's going to be just another step in that adventure. Philip is actually broadcasting live from his home in Mexico, right, Phil?
Indeed.
Can you tell us exactly where you are?
Right now we're in a little town called La Cruz de Guanacaxle, and we are building a house on some land we got in a town called Litibu. So, vamos a ver. We'll see.
Wow. Well, I hope that someday our music festival can come visit you on the coast of Mexico, on the Pacific coast of Mexico. But today, Phil and I, we sort of designed our collaboration such that, I would do a little bit of solo and he would do a little bit of solo. But we also wanted to preview some of the music that we just recorded for a new CD, a new album that we are putting out in the coming weeks and months. Also, we are going to offer the world premiere broadcast of 2 music videos that we made. I think most of you, if you are more familiar with the world of popular music, rock and roll and so on, you sort of assume that music videos go along with that more than with classical tunes. But here we are trying to sort of bridge the gap or break the mold, as it were. So the first part of today's program is going to feature a few performances by me on this beautiful little Steinway here. The first piece that I wanted to share with you all is by the American composer Samuel Barber. This piece is one of Barber's piano pieces that he called Excursions. And one reason why I wanted to play this is because, earlier today I was thinking about how my wife and I are moving this week, right? So we've been very much in transition, going to the new place, coming back here, packing things up, getting reorganized, thinking about all of our possessions and all of how we run our lives. And, it's a big change. And, I was thinking one reason why moving is so exciting for me is because it sort of fills a gap in my life that has been sort of exacerbated by this whole pandemic. For those of you who know me well, you know that I love traveling, and that traveling has been a big part of my life and of my career as a musician too. And, traveling is really about taking yourself somewhere new and experiencing things that you're not used to. And for me, it makes me, I don't know, it makes me really open my eyes to everything around me, and it makes my life just so much more vibrant when you're experiencing new things all the time, And so, since obviously I have not been traveling this past year like normal, like most of us, I suppose, I think that this act of moving apartments is somehow, it's scratching that same traveling itch by just opening up my eyes to new things in the world. So anyway, bringing it back to the music, this is why I chose this piece by Samuel Barber. I'm going to play a couple of his pieces called Excursions for the piano. And when you listen to this first piece, I think you can hear how Barber really makes this music of traveling. It's music of motion. And when he described these, Barber said that these pieces were excursions into different American idioms. He wrote this in 1944, so he was combining his own classical training of classical piano music with all the other different kinds of American folk and popular music around him. For example, there are hints of jazz and sort of boogie music that creep into this first one. There's one that is a slow blues lullaby. There's one of these that's an old Americana-style folk song. And then there's even a sort of a cowboy dance, a Western dance at the end. But for the one that I wanted to share with you first, it has this music of motion, and I think when you primarily hear that is coming from my left hand. It has this accompaniment that is moving forward. Just take a listen. and that kind of figure eight pattern that keeps churning through the music, it really gives the music this kind of energy. Now, one reason I think why this reminds me of traveling is because it always, I don't know, in my mind, it always comes to mind the feeling of being in the passenger seat of a car on a long road trip, which is a very American kind of thing, to drive for days on highways through the rural countryside. But think about when you're in a car on the highway, you are surrounded by rhythms. And just think about that for a moment. For example, the rhythm of the lines on the pavement, those go by at regular intervals, and they become sort of part of the rhythm of the landscape we see, right? But that's not the only rhythm. For example, if you're in the countryside, perhaps there are fence posts going by. The fence posts, they have a very quick rhythm, they're going very fast. Also, of course, there may be telephone wires. Those have a nice kind of swooping rhythm like this. And all of these rhythms can be going by simultaneously, and they sort of create the tapestry and the texture of the landscape. And so I think that in some music like this, perhaps, you have composers kind of intentionally trying to capture that spirit. And it's kind of an amazing thing, classical music capturing the feeling of being in a car. It's not the sort of thing that you normally would think of. So in any case, those are just a few images to start you with, as I hope you enjoy. This is the first of Samuel Barber's excursions for the piano. Thank you very much. What an interesting piece. I love this music of Samuel Barber. It's been one of the things to really keep me company during this, all this time spent without my friends practicing the piano. I wanted to share another one of these little excursions by Samuel Barber. If that one is more suggesting of this kind of energy of American travel. By the way, did you catch the train whistle in the end there? Those little train whistle chords, I love those. The next of these is the third of this set, and this is one of my favorite pieces of Samuel Barber. This one, if I describe that other one as having this kind of vague jazz resemblance, this next one is certainly a kind of an old American folk song style. And what Barber does is he takes this rather simple little folk song melody and he makes a set of variations out of it. A set of theme and variations, that's a very, very classical thing to do. That's a style that goes all the way back to, Chopin, and before that to Beethoven, before that to Mozart, and before that. All of these composers they love taking a simple little theme and then through a process of kind of half composing, half improvising, taking that theme and showing what kinds of little things were possible with it. So just take a listen to the theme that Barber writes for this little set of variations on this American folk song. This is actually not a traditional folk song. It's a melody that he made up himself. But to me, it always reminds me of that old song, The Streets of Laredo. See what you think. That simple little tune is then accompanied by a very simple accompaniment in the right hand. It's just a few chords. You can almost imagine, those being strummed by a guitar. However, the idea of variations in this little piece, those are introduced not so much in the melody or in the harmony, but they are introduced in the rhythm of the piece. So even though this piece is very gentle and very beautiful and very easy to listen to, it is extraordinarily hard to play. And the reason is because what Barber does with these two things, the harmony and the melody, in my left and right hand, is he asks me to play them at slightly different speeds. So one hand is going at a certain rate, and the other hand is going a little bit slower. And I'll demonstrate exactly what I mean. Take, for example, the harmonies. Those are in a nice groupings of 8. 8 is very, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's very stable. It's very normal. My right hand is going slightly slower, so my right hand has to play 7 notes at the same time it takes my left hand to play 8 notes. And I don't know if any of you are great at math, but 7 and 8, they do not divide well together. My right hand is going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I have to say, when I was learning this piece, a couple months ago, I probably spent 2 weeks on that much music, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't play it. Like most good piano students as a child, I was taught to play hands together, right? Put the little metronome on the piano, and you play hands together with the rhythm. And so now all of a sudden, Samuel Barber is sort of untethering me from this, and I am forced to play hands apart. I have to say, I spent so much time practicing this. I was banging my head on the keyboard trying to get it right, And in a funny way, after all of this work, I managed to do it. And it kind of involved letting go a little bit. It was like this Zen experiment in just letting my hands do their own thing and stop worrying about it and stop trying to control it so much. And then when you get that kind of lovely texture of the hands kind of murmuring along at their own speed, then it creates this, it's just this wonderful feeling of this atmosphere. Now, that's a little bit of an introduction to how Samuel Barber puts together this little set of variations. But as I said, it is a set of variations. So this 7 against 8, that happens at the very beginning. That's only step 1. After that, Barber has a sequence of variations where he continuously changes the rhythms. So instead of 7 against 8, it becomes 8 against 9, and then 8 against 5 plus 5, and then we have triplets in one hand going against fives in the other hand that transitions into 8 against 16. I mean, it's like all of these rhythms continuously change in a way where it sounds like both my hands are improvising, but they're almost controlled by different minds. At least that's the way it feels like to me. It's like I have to separate my brain into two different places in order to handle this. All of that said, even though this is an extraordinarily complicated piece to look at and to consider and to practice, it is not complicated to listen to. When you listen to it, it's just like the music washes over you, and it's just gorgeous, beautiful thing with all of these flourishes. It's one of my favorite pieces, and I hope that you enjoy it. This is the third of Samuel Barber's excursions for the piano.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Just such a wonderful piece. It's one of those pieces where it feels to me like every time I play it, I learn something new. And I think isn't that what we expect from all great music, from all great art, that it just never gets stale, it never gets old, it always has something to offer us. So let's see. I think I'm going to share one more piece with you before we bring Philip into the program and we discuss a little bit about our latest adventures in music. When I first planned this, I had planned to offer some music from a program that I did this past month, dedicated to night music, music inspired by the night. And there are so many examples from the Romantic era of nocturnes, and we heard some of them last month at our Trinity concert, nocturnes by Chopin and Grieg. But I thought that, I'd looked out the window and it's a beautiful sunny day here, and I thought, I just don't feel like night music at the moment. But I would like to share a little bit from that program, perhaps one of the most famous pieces of night music ever written. This next work is by the French composer Claude Debussy. This is from his Suite Bergamasque. It's the movement that has the rather impressionistic title Clair de Lune, which means, of course, by the moonlight. So I hope you enjoy this little bit of Debussy, Clair de Lune. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so much. I think there's a reason why some pieces are just always going to be so popular and beloved, and Clair de Lune is certainly one of those. Now, for the next part of our program, I'm going to introduce you to my friend and colleague, Philip Brezina, again. Philip and I, we have collaborated on so many projects over the years. The two of us first met in graduate school at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music here in San Francisco. Philip and I met in, 2008, Phil? 2007? Something like that. And we have been through so many musical adventures together. We have been on tours on the East and West Coast. We have Philip was an integral part of the founding of this very Trinity Alps Chamber Music Festival. He played the very first concerts with me. We went on the very first backpacking trips in the Trinity Alps wilderness.
Let's be clear about why. I mean, Ian was like, "Hey, do you want to go canoeing and hanging up in the mountains, and we can play some music together?" And so it was not a difficult sell. He kind of had me canoeing.
Yeah. Well, I think adventure musical projects have been very close to both of us. That's great. So in today's adventure music, we are doing this collaboration, not just from normal social distance, but actually from two different countries. I'm, of course, at home in California. Philip is at his home, as he mentioned, in Mexico. By the way, Phil, we just had someone join the call from Toronto, Ontario. I see my friend Chris Jackson here. So we have truly an international program today. Phil, I know that you have some violin pieces to share with us, but I know that we also were going to spend some time discussing our upcoming album and the music videos that we're put together. How would you like to do this? Do you want to start with one thing or the other?
I figured we could do our classical karaoke first.
Great.
And then I'll play something by myself, and then we can do another classical karaoke.
All right. Well, when Phil talks about classical karaoke, he's referring to some piano recordings that I made and sent to him over the computer a few days ago so that he could have some duos to play. So this really is kind of a collaboration. It's just my piano recordings from a few days ago and Phil playing live on top of them. Do you want to tell us about the pieces you're going to play and about the importance they have to the album that we just recorded?
Yeah, I usually don't really know much about the music I'm playing other than I like it or I dislike it. I like this one, and it's on the album that we just did. What else? Oh, and to clarify also with classical karaoke, what happens is on the bottom of my screen, there's a little bouncing ball that tells me what finger to put down on the violin. So just like when you go to the bar. And but I haven't had that much drink, so it won't be exactly like that.
So what are you going to start with today?
A Romance by Sibelius.
Jean Sibelius, the composer from Finland. I think most people who know Sibelius's music probably know his big symphonies and stuff. So I was really happy when Phil found this little romance for violin and piano. I'm going to take myself off and wish you a good performance.
Oh, great. Now I got to find my tracks. Okay. So the setup here is kind of complicated where I have a condenser microphone that's going to be picking up the audio track that I'm playing through my phone and my stereo at home, as well as my violin playing here. So if the internet gods be pleased, we'll give this a shot. And I think Ian and I know each other well enough that we can play together all right. Let's see how this goes. Sibelius.
Bravo. Bravo, bravo.
It's kind of funny as well because I have a habit of turning back and looking at my pianist or my bass player or whoever I'm playing with to try to like lock in musically. And so I kept finding myself looking down at my speaker like, damn it, speaker, play with me on this one. Okay, I'll play something by myself then. This tune I'm going to play, well, let me start by saying, when I moved down here to Mexico last year, I moved to this little town called San Pancho. And, you know, I'm kicking around town, carrying my violin or whatever, and people kept telling me, oh, there's this fantastic violinist here in town. You need to meet her, you need to meet her. And I'm thinking to myself, in the kind of, I guess, arrogant way that all of us see ourselves as individuals, I'm thinking like, oh, violin's so difficult to play. There's no way in this little tiny town there's another like, or there is a great violinist here. But turns out maybe violin isn't that difficult, or else the universe and the coincidence of it all transpired to put both of us in this town together. But her name is Karen Bentley Pollock, and she's a phenomenal violinist and happened to live about as far away as I could hit a golf ball from my house to her house. Anyways, she recommended this piece as a duet. It's a Mark O'Connor tune called FC's Jig. And it's for violin and viola, but I kind of like it by myself. And it's not that I don't like violas, but I think it works on its own. So I've kind of made like a hash up of it and cut sections, and just to give you a taste.
Bravo, bravo.
It's a cool tune. We've performed this before with a percussionist, and that really helps. Helps you stay grounded to it.
Phil, perhaps you could tell a few of our listeners about your secondary career as you're not just a classical violinist, right?
Yeah, I'm also a international drug smuggler, and that's why I moved down to no. I play in a bluegrass kind of folk band as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Phil's experience playing with his bluegrass, folk, rock and roll band, whatever you call him, that actually had a lot to do with the way that we put our CD together that we recorded, and our strategy for making videos and how we're trying to get it out there in the world. That's what I say, Phil. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know in the modern era, people don't listen to albums and records like they used to, or at least some people don't. And so it's all about individual tracks. And so we kind of took the idea that you see in pop music and bands, and you make a good track, and you put that out there. And we just happened to put 10 of them together with no rhyme or reason in particular, other than the fact that we enjoy the music and can kind of play it, I suppose.
Oh no, we play it very well.
Oh, that's right.
Especially when you listen to how Scott edited it all for us, fixed up those.
There's no edits. Ian's making that up. It's all live takes and just pure
Well,
gold.
what would you like to do next, Phil?
Let's do a music video they can see.
Gladly. Here, I will add myself to the spotlight here. As Phil mentioned, we're going to share with you the world premiere of a couple of our music videos that we made today. And this is, like I said, kind of a concept that really is not very common in classical music, and yet here we are. We thought it would be fun. It was certainly fun for us, and I thought it was a nice way to help promote this new album that we are putting together. By the way, if anyone wants to see, we also thought, I would like to show you just the cover of our upcoming album, because that was also kind of a fun part of putting this together. The cover is sort of inspired by old Beach Boys records, I suppose you could say. See what you think. That's a photo of us in our tuxedos, taken on Baker Beach here in San Francisco. Isn't that great? So that's, I thought, some people still actually buy records, vinyl records, and we're going to put a couple of those out for sale as well. We'll tell you more about that in a moment. But next, I think we'll share with you one of our music videos. I was thinking we'd do, what do you think? I was thinking the Izai, although the Bolcom is also a nice one. What do you think, Philip?
I think the Izai is good, and then I'll play another karaoke, and then we can do the other one.
Okay, so this next piece is by the Belgian composer Eugene Izai. Izai lived right around the time of Debussy, and it's similar style, that late romantic, almost impressionistic sound, similar to what we heard from Debussy's Clair de Lune earlier. This piece that Izai wrote is for violin and piano. Most of Izai's work is for violin because he was a great virtuoso violinist himself. The title of this work in French is Rêve d'enfant. In English, that would be Dream of Childhood, or perhaps you might say A Child's Dream. And so, with this gorgeous kind of lullaby in this almost psychedelic, impressionistic world of music, we thought, well, how can we make an artistic, relevant video with this theme, this dream of childhood or a child's dream? And so, as you'll see in this video, Philip and I are in it, but also co-starring are Philip's two young sons. I hope you enjoy this little video. I'm going to share it with you now. All right.
Well done. Well done. That was lovely.
Thank you. That was yeah. Thank you very much. That was again. The music was by Eugene Izai, the Belgian composer. That is one of the 10 tracks on the record that we made. And if you enjoy if you enjoy the video, that's great. If you want to just have the music to yourself to listen to on a CD or a record, or I think we're also doing digital downloads, right, Phil? That's the way. That's what all the kids do these days.
Figure out how to do that.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We've got we'll put it on Spotify or whatever. Anyway, more on that later. We're still working on the production end of things, and we'll tell you about how you can reserve a copy of the album or support the recording project in a little bit. Also, just to remind everyone, at the end of our program, we are going to do a group discussion, a live Q&A, a chance for everyone to say hi or comment or ask us questions. So if you have any questions or comments, hold on to them, make a note of them, and we'll get to them in a few minutes once we've finished all of our musical selections. Speaking of musical selections, Phil, I believe you have a couple more that you wanted to share. Is that right?
The Nocturne by Lily Boulanger.
Yes. So fitting with our theme of night music from earlier. This is another nocturne. This is by the French composer Lily Boulanger. Lily and her older sister Nadia were two just absolutely wonderful composers from the early 20th century. This is a time when I think it was especially challenging for women to find a lot of traction in the world of classical music, especially as composers. But the Boulanger family was tremendously successful. Lily Boulanger won the Prix de Rome, one of the great composition competitions in Paris, and she had a year-supported composing retreat in Rome because of that. I think she was only 21 years old, and tragically, Lily Boulanger died not long after that, when she was still in her very early 20s. So we can only imagine what more music she would have given us had she lasted a bit longer. Phil, this is one of my favorite parts of the record. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, great. Here we go. Again, the karaoke. Loading. Boulanger.
Yeah, really, what a shame.
Bravo, bravo.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Ian, you are muted. Unintentionally, I assume.
Yes. Anything else you have for us today, Philip?
No.
Oh, okay, fine. But I think that was a great introduction to the album we put together. Philip and we have a little Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter has two purposes to it. The first purpose is to just kind of publicly announce, what it actually means to make a recording these days, to make a record. And so we just sort of put all the facts out there about, how much we invested in this project, recording, renting the beautiful Mission Dolores Cathedral in San Francisco, hiring a sound engineer, putting all the video together for these music videos. And, we just ask the community at large to support this project, because it's such a strange time to be making a record, when people are buying fewer and fewer CDs or vinyls or whatever. So if anyone is interested in supporting this project, I'm going to put the link in the chat right now. That is a link to our Kickstarter campaign. Once we raise all the money for that campaign, then that's the good news is everything will be paid for. If you do support it that way, another benefit is that you can actually reserve your copy of the album before we even have them produced. So you'll be one of the first people to get a hard copy of it that way. And also, there are a few other little fun tidbits on there. There's another video we put together on the beach with the surfboards and stuff. So that's just one reason maybe to steer you in that direction. The last little part of our program is going to be another music video premiere. This next one is another one of our favorites from the album. It's called The Graceful Ghost, and it is a bit of old-timey ragtime music. It's actually written by William Bolcom, and it was written in the 1970s, so it's not part of that old ragtime era of the early 1900s. But Bolcom, he very much was writing in that style, inspired by the old ragtime masters like Scott Joplin and so on. I love the title of this piece, The Graceful Ghost. It's a great thing to call up in the imagination. But in this piece, we did not try to capture any ghostly atmospheres or anything. We just went with a kind of a fun take on a day in the life of Philip and Ian. That is kind of the theme of this next music video. So I'm going to play it for you, and I very much hope that you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
And I just say briefly that, the whole theme of this record is sort of like that old school kind of sound, tape era or record era, 50s, 40s and 50s perhaps. And we exaggerated it on that track and just tried to keep it really sounding like something you would have heard through, almost like you're listening through a telephone, with the high frequencies and the low frequencies cut off. So you have this very sort of British sound.
Yeah, it's great. I have to say I learned a lot about all of the technology that goes into recording. Not just nowadays, but like historically. Like Phil said, we were kind of going for an older sound to some of that as well. So that's great. I think that wraps up the musical portion of our program. But as I said earlier, I think I've said a lot. Philip has said a lot. Inevitably, we've not said something that you're curious about. So if anyone has questions for us or comments about what you've seen, we might as well take advantage of being in the same Zoom room together, right? If anyone has questions, you can either type them into the chat if you like doing it that way, or if you trust ourselves to be democratic, you can unmute yourself and say hi, and we can do it that way. Or I can see most of you on the screen now. If you raise your hand, I can call on you, and we can do it that way. I see Lori Gallagher is with us. Hello.
Hi, I was just I was just waving back. But this was delightful. Thanks very much.
Well, it is an absolute pleasure, and it is great to see you, Lori. Thank you for being here. I see our friend Maggie Augustine. Hi, Maggie.
Hi. I'm curious, how do you move your electronic score? Wasn't that an electronic score?
Yeah, my electronic score is an iPad, and I've got almost all of my music library on here now. It's pretty incredible. The way that I turn the pages, though, is with a little pedal by my foot. The pedal acts like a keyboard, and it'll either switch page forward or a page back when I tap it. It definitely took some training, I'll tell you that. But also, now I'm completely hands-free. It's been kind of a nice blessing. I don't have to worry about flipping pages anymore. Yeah, thank you. Great question. Anyone else? I see my friend Dottie Kennedy is here on the call. Hi, Dottie.
Yes, I am. Hi, Ian. I'm having my dinner. I just had to leave you for a short time to go and get it. It's delivered to our doors, and it's prime ribs today, and I always ask for rare, and it was so rare I had to heat it up a little bit. But I'm enjoying my dinner and my glass of red wine and listening to your music. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. I'm glad we could have a little Sunday dinner concert for you. Thanks for being here, Dottie. I see our dear friend Michael Kogan is on the call. Michael, before you say anything, you'll have to unmute yourself. But also, I just want to mention that Michael has been a great inspiration as one of the festival's, supporters and sponsors. He has really helped us push our own limits. He was one of the first people to tell me to do concerts on Zoom back in whatever it was, April or May. He also has commissioned new works by composers who've worked with the festival before. And Michael, I'm just glad to have you on the call. I just wanted to give you a little shout out before you say anything.
Well, how nice of you. Hi, Phil. How are you? You were wonderful today.
Thank you.
I was wondering, Ian, how do you think doing that Barber piece, which seemed almost metaphysical in terms of what you had to go through, how that affected your, consciousness or abilities or visions as an artist?
That is a great question. And I guess I maybe hinted at it earlier, when I talked about learning that. Michael's referring to the piece where I had to play in two different rhythms with my different hands. And, to a certain extent, we learn a lot as pianists about how doing different things with the different hands. But the way that Barber asked me to play in two completely different rhythmic worlds, like I said, it was so challenging for me. I mean, I've played a lot of difficult music, but I can't remember being completely stumped like the way I was with that rhythm. It's like for a week I just couldn't do it. And I'm not used to failure at that level. You know what I mean? And it's funny. I don't know if it was just practice. It may be just I needed to practice a week to be able to do it. Sometimes that's the case. But I also think that there was a certain thing about releasing control. You know, so much of what we do as musicians is like, you know, it's like being a high level athlete. It's about controlling your situation, and that's why we practice so obsessively, and that's why we hold ourselves to such high standards. And you know, it's all about controlling all of these very difficult things to create exactly what we want. But something about those rhythms worked a lot better if I relinquished control and I just sort of trusted my hands and trusted my muscle memory and trusted the flow of the music to happen without making it happen. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense to any of you, but it was kind of profound for me. And that's maybe one reason why I just love that piece so much, is because playing it is almost like a meditative experience.
So just to follow up, I thought it was clear, you know, what you said, a kind of an amazing experience. But what have you found that it's affected your other music as you play it?
Oh, I think so, actually. I think so, because, you know, once you get used to that feeling of letting go a little bit, you know, it becomes quite pleasant, and it becomes like, oh, why don't we try this with some other music as well? You know, even music that's maybe a little bit more straightforward. So yes, I think the answer is yes. I do really believe that it's going to carry over. I mean, you know, this is what we all hope for as musicians. We hope that, you know, every week or every month we learn something that makes us rethink everything we're doing. You know, that's the way we stay interested in being a musician, because otherwise it's a very repetitive life that we live, you know, practicing those piano notes. So yeah, thank you for the question. That's just really great. If you don't mind, I'm going to move on because I see some other folks. I see my dear godmother has her hand raised. Thank you. If you'd like, Roxanne, are you with us?
I am, and what I have is more of, I guess, a comment than a question. But it's that, you know, at some point in time, we will be out of this pandemic life and able to enjoy music again in person. But for now, we have this, and it's really helping get us through. And so what it made me think about was my contributions to the Trinity Alps concert series, but also I've been keeping track of how much I contribute so that I can write to my representatives and say, this is how much I personally contribute to various arts organizations, and I really support the National Endowment for the Arts. And what comes out of my taxes is such a tiny amount, probably even less than I'm contributing to individual arts organizations like this. So maybe something for people to think about is just kind of keeping track of the arts organizations that you support and the amounts to which you support them, and letting people represent you that this is important to you.
Our representative.
Here, here. Very well said. Thank you, Roxanne. You know, nowadays, I think in so many ways, 2021 is going to be a year of change and of adaptation. And I think that it's very inspiring to think that that change and adaptation can trickle up, if you will, to the people who make decisions. So yeah, if anyone wants to write their representative and mention the Trinity Alps Chamber Music Festival, oh, I love it on so many levels. Thank you for that. Something for us all to consider. I'm going to look around. I see other people have unmuted themselves. I think maybe, possibly, hopefully, my friend Donald Flasher is here. Hi, Don. Are you with us?
Hey, it looks like Deborah has a question. It's been pretty...
I do see Deborah. Hi, Deborah. Why don't you go ahead?
I think these concerts are wonderful. And it's very, not only is it excellent music, but the warmth and sharing as a Zoom call where we interact and we really hear from you, I think is wonderful. And I have made all my contributions pretty much this past year politically. And now I'm done with that. I will write hundreds of letters. I don't care. But anything is going to, I'm a musician, so anything is going in this direction. And I just wanted to comment on the barber. And I have this funny way of doing, one rhythm against the other, one hand and the other hand. And it's just a funny experience. I can almost close my eyes and then focus on one hand, one part, which needs to be steady so that you don't have to think about it, and the other, but you can't really hear that continuous part. And then you switch, so you're with focusing on the right hand, but at the same time, you're aware of this continuous thing. And if you don't do it exactly and continuously, the ongoing part, it's really fun. It's fascinating, but yeah, it can be really frustrating.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's a great way to put it. I appreciate that. And as everyone can see with the little piano in your background, you've been dealing with similar similar things, I think, throughout your musical career as well.
My piano is just like yours.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this thing.
Yes.
Tomorrow morning, the movers are coming to move this thing to our new apartment. That'll be exciting.
Congratulations.
I try not to be around when that happens. Although I may, someone suggested I could make a little video of the move just to see, what all goes into it. So maybe I'll convince myself to stick around. I saw another comment, or a question rather, from our friend Prudy Noon in the chat. She asks, did you script the videos yourselves? Phil, do you want to take that one?
I suppose we did. We kind of outlined the plan, and then, as with all video making and really any art making, things kind of happen as they go, and you have to roll with it because you usually run out of time. So we planned as best we could, tried to remember all the props that we needed and whatnot, and then hope that the restaurants would let us film there, hope that the church was open, hope that our bikes didn't get flat tires and our
weren't stolen.
Everything else, yeah. So yeah, we attempted to. What do they say? You always plan as best as you can, and then you kind of have to let it. That's not what they say, but they say something like that.
Yeah, and also just so people know, all of that was filmed around the Mission Dolores Basilica here in San Francisco. That's where we recorded all of this. They have a beautiful concert Steinway in there. And they had a lot of space, too, so that we could space ourselves quite distantly and be very safe and have our recording engineer far away. And it was just a beautiful location because that room has so much vibrance to it, being an enormous basilica. But also, our engineer, Scott, he did so much work getting the sound close and getting the atmosphere of the sound. I mean, it was like a really great experience all around. And then in those videos, a lot of that was filmed around that same neighborhood in the Mission Dolores neighborhood. Our friend Michael Kogan asks, who was the dancer in the film? Phil, do you want to give her the credit she deserves?
That's a friend of ours, a mother here that our children play together, and she's a professional dancer. And I said, can you just spin around with a flowy skirt on? And she obliged. Her name is Geneva Bybee.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Well, let's see. Does anyone else have any questions or comments for us? Or does anyone else want to just say hi, I guess? I think you're all able to unmute yourself. I see someone waving with a nice cowboy hat. Her name is Tom, although I don't think her name is Tom. I think you'll have to unmute yourself.
Hey.
There you go.
I'm Peg. Pat Peg.
Yes. So at any rate, it was absolutely magnificent. I loved all of your experimentation. I can't even begin to appreciate the time and the energy and the collaboration that this has taken. So just let me say I appreciate it, appreciate your group. And I think I could listen to Claire de Lune. Your playing of it was one of the most exquisite I recall. So, not that everything else wasn't great, but that seemed to touch my heartstrings. Thank you. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Peg. It's so nice to see you here. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I'll go ahead. If anyone like Peg or anyone else does want to acknowledge and support the project, the collaborative project, I'll put that link in the chat here. You can go to our Kickstarter page and support it that way. Normally when I do these Trinity Alps concerts, I sort of ask you to remember to make a contribution to the music festival, and it'll help us support these things. But at the moment, we just finished our year-end fundraising campaign. Instead of directing you there, I'm going to say, if you make a contribution to the festival, that's wonderful. Always wonderful. It'll help us do this. If you want, you can instead make a contribution to the Kickstarter, and it'll help Philip and I get this off the ground as well. Either way, either or both would be much, much appreciated. Let's see. Moving along, I see several other friends are here. For example, our friend Leonie. Hello, Leonie.
Hey.
Leonie is joining us from her home in the Netherlands. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just, great playing from both of you. It was so nice to hear Ian and Phil again. We've been studying together at the San Francisco Conservatory. So when I saw in my mailbox that you were doing something together, I was like, yay, I wonder how you guys sound these days. So yeah, and Phil, I was just wondering what you're doing, if you're playing in what sort of groups, or what is filling your days otherwise.
Yeah, I have 2 children, so that's sort of consuming, but yeah, playing a lot and working. I've been recording for sort of pop bands and things like that, flying in tracks, and I have a business with a friend where we're running these kind of online songwriting camps and getting people registered so they can make money off their music. And it's all in like the pop sync world, less in the classical world at the moment, I suppose.
Wow, cool stuff still.
Yeah. Having fun.
Good.
Nice to see you, Leonie. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, how about you, Leonie, if we don't mind taking, if I can ask you?
Yeah, how are things in the Netherlands?
Yeah, kind of silent. But I'm playing in an orchestra, and we're trying to work, just making recordings. But that still requires a conductor, and so sometimes the conductor has to come from countries that cannot. Yeah, sometimes the borders are closed. So these few weeks have been I've been out of a job basically, but otherwise, yeah, things are still kind of happening. So I'm kind of still up and running.
Well, good. Leonie, maybe we can have you perform on this series sometime again soon.
Yeah, that would be nice. And would give me a bit of existential joy.
That's good. Isn't that what we all need now, right?
Yes.
Well, thank you again for being here. Let's see. I see some other folks have unmuted and maybe want to contribute. Mrs. Elliott, Holly Elliott, are you here?
Yes, I am here.
Do you have something to add to the discussion, or a question or a comment?
Well, I've been very interested in all the innovation, all the new things that you're trying, and I think they're really wonderful. So free and expressive. So thank you for doing that. I know it's fun for you too.
Yeah, I would say
this was a great concert today.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you so much. It is a fun existence doing music, I have to say. And I don't know, I just feel so grateful to have creative people that I can still collaborate with, even over this strange medium, even from different countries. I mean, we just heard from Leonie in Amsterdam, and here Philip is coming to us from Mexico. I mean, it's just kind of miraculous in a lot of ways. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. Let's see, Carol Masterson, I see you here. Do you want to chime in, Carol?
It's been fabulous, as have all of your concerts, and We're envious of your sunlight in San Francisco. It's raining a lot in Carlotta.
Well, okay, I feel for you. I suppose California needs the rain as much as possible, so I should not be glorifying in this great winter weather too much, really.
I'm George. I want to thank you very much, but I didn't even fall asleep.
Hey, that's great. That's great news. Thank you so much for being here. And I know that, Carol, you and your husband have been regulars at all of our digital concerts, so thank you so much for your support. I think this comes to the end of our program today. I want to thank you all for joining us again. I want to remind you that you can make a contribution to support this music festival and these concerts at the Trinity Alps website. I just put that in the chat, trinityalpscmf.org. Also, if you want, you can make a contribution to our Kickstarter campaign. That'll help us get this record and this video and all that project finished. And you'll be able to reserve your own CD copy or a digital download if you do it that way. Or if you're a little old school and you want a vinyl record, guess what? We're making those too. We will even sign one with our autographs, and then you can hang it on your wall. Oh, it looks like Phil is giving us that long-awaited tour of his little rental in Mexico. Looks like the kids are having fun in the pool, huh?
That's why I thought you could maybe hear the noise, and so I just was like...
Well, say hi to the boys and to Whitney for all of us. In conclusion, I would like to invite everyone to unmute yourself and give our dear special guest, Philip, another round of applause, and that's how we'll sign things off. Bravo.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Everyone stay healthy and stay happy, and we'll see you next time. Our next program is in 2 weeks on February 14th. Till then, bye.
Bye.